We just won the Arnold. There ain't nothing else. We got to go for the Olympia. We're going for that win, man. We want that standout. So for me, this is my own expectation. We're winning the Olympia this year.
How you doing, everybody? This is Jimmy the Bull at MuscleMaster.com. I'm here today to share with you my personal power straps, how to help you become the best power bodybuilder I could possibly be. Training through injuries, gaining strength, and now I'm going to share with you how you can get the extra mile in the gym, pushing and pulling and getting through the exercises. These are the best power straps you'll ever use. Go to MuscleMaster.com to get the full demonstration.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Joining us is the reigning Arnold Classic champion, the first ever British Arnold Classic champion. Earning his pro card in 2017, he would earn his qualification to the 2022 Olympia at the 2021 Prague Pro. A top 6 finisher at his debut Olympia appearance at this past Olympia, the man nicknamed the Nigerian Lion would shake Arnold Schwarzenegger's hand just 11 weeks later as Arnold Classic champion. Of course, we're talking about Samson Dauda, who's kind enough to join us not even a month after hoisting the Arnold Trophy in Columbus. Samson, welcome.
Man, thanks, man. That was a bang-up intro, man. That was definitely, I even had me psyched out. I was like, damn, yeah, that sounds good. You know,
Samson, wait till you actually watch this and like there's music playing underneath it, so it's kind of more superhero-y, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, now I'll be like, yeah, let's go, yeah. Oh man.
Well, Samson, how has life been like? It's only been about 3.5 weeks. You as the Arnold Classic champion, joining a very exclusive list of champions.
Man, it's been incredible, man. You know, there's a lot of things that you sort of hope and you dream for so long to sort of make this achievement happen, but you never really, you know, you have this idea of working towards it, but you never really stop to think what it will be like once you actually achieve it, and how it will change your life and how it changes you. But sort of doing it now and being in a position where we have, it's remarkable feeling, man. You feel blessed, you feel honored, and it changes your life. It really changes your life big time.
And you know, of course, we mentioned the fact that you are the first ever British Arnold Classic champion. Obviously, when we spoke in Columbus at the meet and greet, and you talked about how proud you were, you know, to carry that British flag onto the Arnold Classic stage. And now that you've accomplished that feat, put that into perspective, obviously a burgeoning and a really, truly historically great scene in England and the United Kingdom. So what does that mean for you to be the first ever British Arnold Classic champion?
Man, because it's absolutely amazing, man. It feels crazy because I remember when we were kind of prepping for the show, and the whole time I was sort of prepping in there, I was going in the mindset that, look, no matter what, I want to go into the mindset, I want to be able to win the show. I know I can do it, you know. And at one point, I was training with one of my friends, and we were kind of training about it. And I kind of stopped and talked to him, going, actually, you know what British guys ever won the Arnold Classic before? And we sort of sat there, we ran through the numbers and trying to check out names and stuff like that. And we realized, actually, no British bodybuilder has ever won it before. And we kind of stopped and go, damn. He goes, wouldn't it be cool if you end up becoming the first one? And at that moment, it sort of clicked on me. And I was like, now that is a mantle to have. Now that will be amazing, you know. And it sort of fired me up a bit more, you know. It made me feel like, you know what? Hell, yeah, why not? I want to be the first one. I want to be there, you know. So it's to be able to kind of go through with it and then achieve it, it's remarkable. And you're thinking, man, this is something that, you know, for year up and year, like my time coming up, I've watched the Arnold back to back. I've watched every year of it. I've gone back to watch the previous ones. I've seen, you know, champions after champions all do this show. So to kind of put yourself in a position where you're one of them, it's surreal. It's really, there's not enough words that can explain what that feels like to you, because you've been a fan of it, you know, for a long time coming up. You've been watching it on, watch it online, watch it here, follow the articles, follow the magazines, follow the posts. But then to be in a position where you're there, I don't think there's any words you can really say to reflect how that makes you feel.
Well, I have to ask, because anytime somebody's crowned Arnold Classic champion, you have to ask them, what was it like to have your hand raised by Arnold Schwarzenegger? What was it like to see Arnold walking onto the stage after you were announced as Arnold Classic champion? Obviously, for anybody, of your age group, of this generation of bodybuilders, you grew up idolizing Arnold Schwarzenegger as a movie star, as a bodybuilder, but then to finally, and I'm sure you envisioned what that moment would be like. But what was that finally like? You're literally shaking the governor's hand.
Do you know what's funny, right? You you envision achieving something. Like some people, you envision winning the lottery one day, you envision doing this one day, you kind of almost play in your head, oh yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say this and everything. So with Arnold, I always felt like, one day when I win the Arnold, I'm going to have Arnold come in to me and, he shakes your hand and gives you that speech. And you think you're going to say this and you're going to say that and you're going to be all words and stuff with it. Honestly, when the moment came on, I literally just froze. I was like, yes, I just won. I turned around, Arnold standing there with a trophy, and I'm like, oh crap. So it felt like you just lost for words, because that moment, like you said, you envision it for so long. You sort of caught up with the idea of one day being able to do it. So when it then happens, you're in shock, and you're trying to take it in as much as possible and take in everything that's happened as much as possible, but your senses, everything's overwhelmed. And at the same time, you're holding yourself and trying not to cry and not to break down, and just hold it together and just be strong and be like, yes, and feel proud of that moment, just take it all in. But at the same time, you're crumbling inside. You're just thinking, oh my God, you feel like a kid in a candy store, just clapping your hands, oh my God, this is so amazing. So to then have Arnold obviously come up to you and smile and award you with that prestige honor like that, it just feels like the main icing on the cake of everything. You feel like, wow, now, you're not just there dreaming about it. Now he's here crowning you with this award that is down in history. Like, this is it. Nothing ever going to change that. It's happened. And it's beyond belief, honestly. It really feels like, man, you just won the lottery and you're in shock, where you're like, oh my God, I've dreamt about doing it, but it's happened. Now you just kind of taken back by it and holding up, thinking, okay, what do you do? But it's amazing, man. It's absolutely amazing.
Did it enter your mind? You're like, you know what? I'm going to try to pull a Cedric McMillan and, try to get him to hit one of my signature shots.
Cedric was always cool with Arnold. He's always done that. And you sort of have this idea of, okay, he's going to always ask, the question you always ask, okay, how long did you train? And how they, and you sort of in your head, okay, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say it. But honestly, when the time comes, you literally just go, and your mind just goes blank and you just completely fade out. But it's honestly, you stand there and you just kind of looking and going, man, I mean, to be in this position right now, I mean, to be here right now at that moment, receiving something like that from a legend in that position, it's you just kind of taken back. You literally are taken back. There's nothing you feel like you can ever say or do to ever sort of summarize that moment and how that feels. And it's a shock. It's really a shock.
And then, following that up, the next day, it just so happened that they were honoring past Arnold Classic champion. So you go from, being crowned Arnold Classic champion, shaking Arnold Schwarzenegger's hand, and then sitting on a panel of past Arnold Classic champions, the like of Rich Gaspari, Kevin Lebroni, Rich Warren, Kai Green, Brandon Curry was sitting, a couple of seats over from you. Was there a moment you just say to yourself, like, all right, I gotta pinch myself? Literally in the span of 12 hours, I had my hand raised by Arnold. I'm crowned Arnold Classic champion. Here I am sitting on this exclusive panel of literal Mount Rushmore of bodybuilding.
Oh, because like the minute you win the Arnold, and at that moment in shock, you're just on stage and you're trying to take it all in and you're trying to capitalize. Oh my God, we just done it. You walk off stage. I remember walking off stage and there was a chairs there and I sat down, just wanted to catch my breath for a minute and just sort of understand that this has really happened. It wasn't a dream. And, and they come up to you and they say, look, Sam, congratulations. You're now Arnold Classic champion. Tomorrow morning, you got to be here at 9 o'clock. We got an interview with the legends and all that and stuff like that. And they're telling you, and you're just standing there kind of like just trying to take it all in, like what? And then the next morning, you rush up there and you go. And this for me was the one part that it truly felt special. You come up, and obviously before they had the stage all set up, and before we actually go on stage, we end up meeting all the legends, all these guys backstage. And you had Ronnie, you had Jay, you had Flex, you had Sean, you had so many legends, Branch, all of them, like right all there, and even had Lee come in and join the circle. And you're all there, all of them welcome you into the club and just saying, "Oh, congratulations, well done." Like that. You couldn't, if you ever had a dream as a bodybuilder, I'm thinking, what would your ideal situation ever be? When you dream of something, it'd be amazing if I won the Arnold one day and I got to imagine this. You couldn't ever imagine that happening. So I'm there backstage with all these guys, and Dex and all them. They all they've been doing this for a while, so they all know each other and they're all having jokes. And I'm watching them, and it felt like I was just living a dream at that moment. It felt like someone had to pinch me to wake me up, because I was standing there and I'm looking, I'm going, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. Look at the people that's standing in front of me, And Dexter's like, okay, guys, come on, man, we got to get a picture. And he's getting his phone out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a picture I definitely want, But it really felt like that. And, and they also giving you kind words and advice and stuff like that. And you're just in awe. There's no other words. You're in awe because you stand next to all the legends you've looked up to all your life, and now you're seeing them right there, and so they're just part of this whole point right here, and it's surreal. It's really surreal, and you're trying to just obviously just want to make sure you take in as much of it as you can, and not just let it be a thing that just glaze past you very quickly, and you sort of have to look back at it and be like, oh, I don't remember much of it. But you're standing and you talk to every one of them. And it makes you feel like, honestly, it felt like a proud moment. It felt like, yeah, this every single struggle and hardship you have to do to get to this point, that point, it makes it like it's all worth it. It was definitely
that's what I was going to ask next. I mean, obviously that had to be a complete whirlwind for you, and I'm sure you were just trying to stay in the moment, trying to be present and just soak in everything. Was there any specific piece of advice that you received from any one of those legends that you shared that stage with that you just really took to heart, and you were like, yes, first of all, holy crap, I'm hearing this from so on and so forth, but yes, I'm going to take this and now apply it going forward?
Yeah, because what happens, I remember I was standing and I was watching these guys, and I was still standing there quietly, and I was kind of watching them talk amongst each other, and I'm standing in the corner just kind of looking at them, just taking it all in. And I remember I've always been a big fan. Flex Wheeler has always been one of my biggest inspiration in bodybuilding, right from the first time I ever got up. I saw his physique, and he inspired me to want to do this. So he's always been one of my biggest inspiration. So at that moment, he walks up to me, and he kind of looks at me going, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, let's take it all in. And I'm like, and I'm trying to explain to him, like, you know what, right now, this is just overwhelming. It's all, I just can't believe it's happening. And he kind of smiles at me, and he said, look, you got to understand, right now, right here at this minute, you deserve to be here. This is part of you. This is what you are now. And it almost dropped into my knees, because it's like, how do you actually comprehend that? How do you comprehend that? These are people you've been a fan of and you've looked up to for so long. And now you're standing in a room with all these legends, and they're saying, welcome to the club, welcome to, you just literally like, oh my God, like, wow, this is crazy.
It's one thing to win an Arnold Classic. Obviously, when you consider just in the overall grand scheme of bodybuilding and celebrated champions, obviously there is the Olympia. But beyond that, the most celebrated crown is the Arnold Classic. It's one thing to win that show for any bodybuilder, but to do so against truly one of the most talented lineups maybe ever in Arnold Classic history. I mean, when you consider not just the quality, but the depth of quality in this lineup, it was a quasi Olympia lineup. And then you're talking about, Kamal El-Garni, Sean Clarita, two of the standouts from the 212 jumping in to that lineup. And you're talking about the likes of an Andrew Jack, of a Nick Walker, Big Ramy. You win against that lineup. How validating is that for you? How far you have come, and just in terms of, again, when you look back in the annals of history of bodybuilding, it's one thing to see Samson Dauda, 2023 Arnold Classic champion, but then when you dig deeper, against that lineup.
The lineup. It's crazy because I remember like when the list first came out. I remember when the first list for the Arnold came out, and you saw it was a good lineup anyway. By the time, a lot of people kind of said, "Oh no, the list wasn't strong enough," and everything like that. And I sort of felt like, okay, you know what? Either way, I'm just gonna bring my best to the show anyway and try to win it. And then as more guys started jumping into that list, and the list started getting stronger and stronger and stronger, the whole time I was kind of looking at it and going, you know what? If you're ever going to win an Arnold Classic and a really good one, this will be the one. This will be the one that defines everything. This will be the one that you can really, truly stand with your head up high and go, yeah, I want an Arnold. It wasn't, okay, there were a few people missing. Because it's always kind of like, not on anybody. It's almost kind of like a little bit of a shame when you feel like you win a show and it's not the prestige of the show. The athletes, you didn't go against the heavy hitters or you didn't go against the best guys at the time. It always feels a bit like, okay, you won, but you feel like something was taken back away from that chance. But when this list became what it was, I truly felt like, yes, yeah, this is it. If there's going to be an Arnold that you want to win, this is the one. You definitely have everybody here. You have all the heavy hitters here. So it was like, okay, yeah, and that it made me really excited. It really did.
But when you look at, obviously, there was your expectation going into the show.
Yeah.
There was your thought process going into the show. And obviously, as the lineup evolved, your thought process had to go from one end to the other. But
yeah.
You're on stage. And again, I can't overemphasize enough the fact that this is a quasi-Olympia lineup, a truly world-class lineup. But when you're on stage, you're being compared to Nick Walker. You're being compared to Andrew Jackson. There was that one, comparison between the three of you. Towards the end of prejudging on Friday night, where it was just amazing. Again, Steve Weinberger giving each one of you an opportunity in the middle, putting you through the comparisons. At what moment did you feel like, I got this? I can truly win this show?
Coming to the show, even like the way things was, especially knowing from the Olympia lineup what we did at Olympia, we knew we were going to be stronger coming down. And I sort of had that mindset thinking this time, don't just go in there saying, you know what, I just want to do my best and see where I place. Don't go in there with the idea of, okay, I just want to make a good top place and whatever. Truly, truly believe in it. Train like you want to win a show. Train like you're going in there, you're going all out for it. Don't hesitate to it. So even when the lineup got stacked and the guys in there were just unreal, I still wanted to hold on to that belief, even though at some point, my belief, sometimes you get that struggle, you think, oh, I don't know. But I still wanted to hold on to that. So when we were on stage and we were kind of going through it, and I remember the first call out where, they lined us up and then, they said, oh, they swapped me and Rami for the middle spot. And even then I was like, okay, hell, this is good, but is this really happening? And I was like, okay, let's just see. Because I know that at any one moment now you could get moved around. So I'm like, okay, let's just see. So we did the very first call out with me in the middle the whole time. And I came off that and I was thinking, okay, this whole idea of actually holding on to your belief and not shaking for no matter what, it seems to be working very well for you. So hold on to that. Don't hesitate no matter what. Don't hesitate. So when we had the 3-man call out and they were swapping us in the middle and giving each one of us a chance, I still want to hold on to that belief that, nah, I'm winning. I'm winning this. I don't care. I'm taking this one. I belong. I can have this one. This one belongs to me. Don't back down. Believe you can win it. So I really wanted to hold on to that belief the whole show. So at the end, having that result then come to pass and that happened, it felt like, wow, you know what? There is something to be said for self-belief. And it does really inspire and push you ahead.
When you break down the exact package that you brought to these Arnold Classics, and let me take a step back, because the common denominator between you and all the competitors for this Arnold Classic was that you were working with an 11-week turnaround, and not just 11-week turnaround from any show, an 11-week turnaround from the show where you put everything on the line. You're not holding anything back. You're giving it your absolute best. And then to turn it around again, what was the game plan for you when you reviewed what you brought to the Olympia, and in terms of just what fine points, what improvements, what adjustments you had to bring to the Arnold Classic? Again, given that everybody was dealing with the same time span, the same exact restrictions, I guess if you want to call it that. What was the game plan, and what do you think you brought differently to the Arnold Classic as opposed to the Olympia?
I mean, with the Olympia, we thought it was a very hard prep. The Olympia, I've always said that like it was a very tough prep for me, and I kind of went all out at it. And after the show, we were still so proud of the result and proud of the package we brought then. And the main thing we just kind of wanted to do is listen to the judges' feedback. What do they want to see better? What would they want to see? Because at that point, we already knew we were going to do the Arnold well before the Olympia anyway. So it felt like, okay, this wasn't a new prep. It was just basically us carrying on from where we left off. So it's almost like a halfway point. We kind of took it like a halfway point where you can ask the judges, okay, you've just seen what we brought. What would you like to see better between now and the Arnold? And, they said, okay, we want you to come in tighter. We want to keep your midsection a lot more tighter than it was. And I was like, okay, cool. And I knew that with the time where we were and the time that we had, with another 11 weeks, I knew we could improve on it. I knew that it was a no-brainer. We definitely could improve on it. Now, the key factor was trying to pull back and improve on that package, but without losing that size and roundness that we had. That was a big attribute in the Olympia. Trying to sort of improve on that, but not lose that big pop that we did have on stage. So it was basically, we kind of went off and we started dieting and kind of going down through that. And the main factor was, okay, we know we're going to get tighter with more 11 weeks more. It's given. You carry on cardio, you carry on diets, and you're going to get tighter. There's no get away from that. And I've always known from my past history, I'm always better the second show around. It's just always what happens. So we sort of kind of held on to that, and then we started working off that. And immediately we, I had 2 weeks off and I got back on it. And immediately we just saw changes happening quite drastically. Like my body was just responding to everything so fast. And so we kind of say that we made a lot less changes for this prep than we did for the Olympia. My body was just responding to everything. It was just changing. So we just felt like, you know what, most of the time we didn't even sort of die. We didn't even like suffer as much as we did for the Olympia. We kind of just said, okay, your body's getting leaner, but you're not losing that size. You're not losing that roundness. You're not losing that fullness. So the more we pushed, the more we still held on to that. And by the time we got about 3 weeks out, we're looking at going, you know what, you've never been this tight before. You've never been this look before, and you don't look any smaller for it. So you still have that sort of lines and that pop that makes your aestheticness really stack out. And it was the idea of, okay, we know that you have to bring down stage, especially going up against bigger guys like Rami and Andrew.
Right. Yeah.
You gotta have the mass to hold off with them, but yet the conditioning that's just enough to hold Nick back as well. So it was basically trying to find that sweet in between spot where you don't give up the mass to get completely shredded, but at the same time you don't sort of hold on to the mass and not get shredded enough to be comparable. And that's basically the strategy we sort of had going into the show. And, lucky for us, that just seemed to pan out.
Well, let's talk specifically about, again, with that final three-man call out, you, Andrew Jack, and Nick Walker. And, this is so indicative of where we are right now at that top end of bodybuilding, that you look at the variety of physiques, and I feel as if you all bring something very unique, very different. I mean, you look at Nick, and Nick is just, he's a freak. I mean, just in terms of overall, conditioning that he brings to every show. I mean, the shape, the absolute just freak muscle mass, the muscle size. Yeah, Andrew Jack. I mean, we talk about the word structure, and I do feel like it is a little overused at times, but he does have a truly classic class, mass with class structure. What do you feel as if you brought specifically that allowed you to, to beat two very top end competitors?
It's just, for us, we always knew our strength is that balance and complete, that structure, balance, and the completeness that we tend to have. And, we sort of have that in between where we have the aesthetics to hold off and be aesthetic on stage, but yet we have the mass to stick with the mass monsters as well. And it's sort of having the best of both worlds and just being in that middle spot where you're not too much of one or too much of the other. You're literally right in between. You're complete, you're balanced, you're thick, and you're symmetrical. So we're like, okay, with every guy you want to stand next to, you should be able to stand next to them and highlight their flaws. This is something you do very well. They always see, if you stand alone, it's like, okay, yeah, he's really good. Yeah, wow, he's nice. But until you stand next to someone, that's when people then start really realizing, okay, actually, he's bigger than I thought he was. Actually, he has more structure, less flaws than he thought he was. So that is one thing that we do very well. That is one of our biggest strengths, is being able to stand next to guys that would normally look extremely good on by themselves, but then we stand next to them and we highlight things that they're missing. So when we kind of did this show, it was the same exact dynamics. Is okay, with every guy we know that we're going up against, we should be able to highlight and bring out their flaws and bring it to light, you know. And that's one thing we want to make sure we're able to do in this show.
You know, obviously, the fact that you're Arnold Classic champion, that in and of itself is a celebration. That's something that, you know, when the name Samson Dauda comes up, that's the name that's going to come up as far as, you know, Arnold Classic champion, and now, you know, really added to that elite list of, you know, competitors that could take out or be in competition with Hadi Choopan for the Mr. Olympia title. But, you know, I think the other facet of you, which is so unique in today's bodybuilding, which really is to be celebrated, is that, you know, we're talking about, you know, your rise, and it's been organic as it's been meteoric, I guess, if that makes any sense. You know, last year, fourth at the Arnold Classic, right?
Yeah, fourth for our first Arnold Classic last year. Yeah. And
but you know, when you look at, again, you punch your Olympia ticket at the Prague Pro in 2021, right? And then, you know, this has been a truly steady rise. I mean, many times you'll see someone, you know, in that same profile finishes, but they might have their one, you know, moment of glory, you know, at an Arnold Classic, finishing in the top 4, top 5, and then, you know, back to the middle of the pack. You truly have been, you know, on a steady rise. What do you attribute that to?
Oh, thank you. I just think it's a support system, man. It's like, I know that, you know, I've always had a great support system, and I know that, yes, as well, I've obviously got great genetics. There's no getting away from that. But I've always had that truly support system, and for years before the last 2 years, I haven't had the full support to be able to sort of pin down and be like, okay, just make bodybuilding your priority, make that your main goal, make that everything you do. So financially, I couldn't do it. You know, time, I couldn't do it. So we were kind of getting along, even when we turned pro in 2017, you know, compared to 2018, 2019, 2020. And it was basically, okay, we were not making progress, but it was almost hindered by the ability that we didn't have the ability, time to give everything to it. So obviously when Hostile came along and Fuad gave me the opportunity to sort of like, okay, let's see what you can do now if you truly sort of give your all just to this. And that's where the last 2 years, you know, we've just seen this sort of explosion of me sort of jumping from show to show and doing that. And then along the way, you know, we then hook up with Milos, and he then sort of learned my body and realized actually there's a lot there that he could work with. And he sort of brought a lot to light, and he sort of taught me a lot as well. And now we kind of seeing what's happening. Even we still sit back every time, like every single show, everything. We sit back, preps, and we look and going, we don't understand what the hell is going on with your body, man. Like, it just responds to things, and things just happen that we don't even expect. Like, we did the off season last year, and you know, Milos kind of joked around. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna put 30 pounds of muscle on you." And you know, you always hear coach and all that. They say sort of things like that. You kind of like, you laugh it off like, "Oh, that's, you know, that's nice." You know, you don't really take it seriously. So when we kind of went through and we had the off season, and we grew a lot in the off season, and I was like, okay, this is a lot of weight. I've never been this big. I've never felt this way before. But at the same time, you kind of think, okay, but would you be able to retain that when you start dieting? You know, and we started kind of doing that. And Milos like, yeah, don't worry, I got a strategy to make you retain all that. And we started dieting down. But the amount that we were able to hold on to, we were both shocked about it. We didn't really think, I mean, we were going to put on that much between what literally competing less than just a few months ago. You know, we competed in March, and by the time it came around to December, you know, we put on 16 pounds of muscle of stage weight. It's just something that we were kind of just doing back like, holy crap. And then when we kind of finished with the Olympia and we kind of going to the Arnold, we kind of thought, okay, you know what, we're probably going to try to zip things down, tidy down, but let's not sort of set down too much, but let's sort of tighten things up. But even then, from that show to the Arnold, from the Olympia to the Arnold, we didn't, if anything, we put on more size than actually coming down for it. So the whole time we kind of stand back and we're just going, you know what? It feels like whatever you do, your body just tends to take on. It just feels like your body's taking on a life of its own, where it's finally just realized, okay, you want to be a bodybuilder now. Okay, I'll go with you. And things just seem to be happening. And from show to show, he's just been one progress to another. And, everybody kind of, the position where they say, oh, you know what, don't put on any more masks, don't put on any more this, don't do any more that. But we kind of in a position where we're smiling going, yeah, it's not like we're forcing it to happen. My body's just deciding that this is what it's going to do. And we just say, okay, don't fight it, just go with it,
Obviously, over the course of the last couple of years, let's give them a shout out. First, Fuad, and I was speaking to you and your wife at the Arnold Classic, and she was telling me, off camera, just obviously how much he has done for you in terms of supporting your bodybuilding career. And one thing I do want to give Fuad credit for, I mean, obviously among the other things, building his channel through the from the ground, building a supplement company through the ground, obviously, and now doing the Arnold Classic commentary, but he took a chance on you when you were not a ready-made product. Like anyone could sign you right now and be like, hey, look at me, genius, signing the Arnold Classic champion. He took you on, obviously much before, you had that progression that you had. What has Fuad and his support meant to you in your bodybuilding career?
Man, it's been everything. It has truly been everything, because you kind of sit back and you look at it now and go, okay, how many companies or how many people do you know who signed just an up-and-coming bodybuilder that hasn't proven himself, hasn't done anything, doesn't even seem like he could do anything anytime soon, to take a full chance on him and say, okay, right, let me give him an opportunity just based off what I see his personality or his drive should be, just based off that. Let me just see what he can do with it. It was a big chance, man. It was something that, it wasn't like we were friends or we sort of knew each other or we had, mutual friends where he said, okay, I'll just take him on because I'm a friendly guy. No, he actually did that based off just pure belief of him seeing something that no one else did. Because I remember before then, I reached out to a lot of companies. I reached out to a lot of people, asking for like sort of support and everything else. And yeah, I didn't get a response for most of them. So to have him sort of take that chance on me and say, all right, look, I'm going to give you a shot. You show me what you can do. It felt like it was something I wanted to grab hold and just run with. And even now, he still smiles and said, bro, honestly, when you said you're going to take this opportunity and run with it, I didn't expect you to run this fast, So for me, it's everything, because when someone believes in you in that opportunity, in that time where you literally are at your ends meet, you literally basically just scraping by and you have literally barely nothing to offer but just your word that you're going to work your ass off. And they basically go on just that and give you the opportunity. You can't help but feel truly grateful to them. You can't help but truly feel like, it's not the idea of just owing them, but you feel like they've done something for you to change your life that words could have never put into play, So for me, that was something that I'll always be grateful to him for. It's something that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be here this far, because like before he came along, I was ready to walk away from the sport entirely.
Really? Wow.
I was ready because it just wasn't working out. And I was ready to go, okay, financially, I was struggling. I was sort of doing bodybuilding at the time was a hobby because it was a side job. It wasn't really, I wasn't making anything from it. It was just a side hobby. So for me, it just felt like it was a hobby that was sort of eating away at me and not really bearing any fruit in return. So 2020 was going to be my last year. 2020 was going to be a year that I was like, okay, if it doesn't work out this year, I don't make it to Olympia, that's it, I'm done. So he came along and he gave me that, okay, here, just keep going. Let's see what you can do with this. And for me, it felt like it was a saving grace. It was just that little handout that I needed at that time, just to say, okay, you know what, don't give up, just keep going, So for me, he gave me everything that I needed to be here at this position right now.
And obviously, you two sharing a very visibly emotional moment on the stage afterwards, an embrace of the very, very, very cool. And I mean, these are the kind of stories that you love to see in this sport, the relationships, the investment in one another. And another man who has made an investment in you in sorts is Milos. And, obviously good friend of the show, good friend of the podcast. We love Milos. Milos, he is, I wish I had a friend like Milos who everywhere he went, he just talked you up and talked you up to the point where man. You know how he is. And obviously he's so passionate, about bodybuilding in general. I mean, you could ask him literally, favorite protein source, and he will literally give you an hour and a half answer with a big smile on his face. When it comes to his athletes, in particular, obviously, very, very proud, of what you've accomplished. But, talk to us about, like, specifically, right? I mean, there's so many different top coaches out there right now. What is it about Milos? What kind of a formula has he struck with you that has allowed you to really take this leap, this quantum leap into the elite end of the open class?
Because what happens, right, most of the time when guys have coaches, it's almost like this kind of relationship where is the coaches tell you, okay, this is what you do, and then you go off and do it. But for us, it was never, right from the get-go, when we first met and we first having our chat, it was just set out really clearly that this was a team thing. It wasn't a you tell me and I go off and do it. Because as most of you probably know, some of you know, my wife was coaching me for years. She turned me pro. She coached me for years when I first started. So she knows my body a lot. She knows everything that I've been through to this point. So when Milos came along and we wanted to sort of grow that team, we wanted to make it clear that, look, there's a lot of information that we already know about me that will be vital to help him to understand me. We don't have to play sort of him trying to learn my body for years. We already, all those things we sort of know. So when we got together, there was a case of we had a good team. So we sat down as a team and we spoke about it. And he was really surprised. He was like, man, he was really shocked about how much we sort of already got on, sort of knew. So it kind of built this relationship where he sort of like, he was really intrigued. And he was like, oh, you've done this? Okay, well, have you tried it this way? Have you tried that way? And we then have this 3-phase team where it was all three of us all sit down and we discuss exactly what we wanted to going forward. We discuss what we've done in the past and what didn't work and what did work and what we liked and what we didn't like. And we all just sit, it's almost like Chinese parliament. We all sit in and we all chime in on our own thoughts. And then we all come up with a plan together and say, okay, right, is this the approach we want to do going ahead? So when we did Arnold last year, exactly that. We were like, okay, we wanted to be dry for that show. We want to drive for our next show. We want to do this, we want to do that. We all sat down and go, okay, we look at the videos, we look at the pictures, we go through everything together. He gives his insight. Okay, he thinks we look better here. He thinks we shouldn't have done this approach, or we could have done this approach better. We give our own insight. My wife gives her insight. And we basically bring it all together and we discuss, okay, what's the best approach going forward? And then we learn from that and then we move on. So you now have a point where you're not just having one mind or one person solve just giving you the whole thought. So you're having kind of where you have three people now putting their mind together and putting their brain together and saying, okay, right, this is it. This is what we want to do. And this plan should work. And where my wife is obviously on the floor, she makes sure that I'm literally on track with every single thing that's part of a plan, day and night, straight on, from every training session, every meal, everything on is exactly to the plan that we've all set together. And this team just works. And it's more of a friendship, a really close friendship, a really close-knit friendship that has just developed from it, where we now know each other way before we even say a word. Like I could stand there and pose, and I could look both their faces, and I know exactly what they're thinking. And they can look at each other, they be like, yeah, they know exactly. I'm like, yeah. And so it's now become this tendency where we know what each other's thinking. We know what we like and what we want to see from each other. And it just become this great thing that now we just bonded like that. And going forward, it just works. It works very, very well. So when people are seeing the progress that's happened quite quickly, they're wondering what's happening, what's changing. Is because you're seeing what happens when a team of people that are so dedicated, so passionate, so enjoy this come together to make things happen. And with somebody that's genetically gifted and hardworking in that process in the middle of it, it's just a winning formula. It's no getting away from it. It's just a winning formula. And it's something that you now see happening in front of you.
Well, I was going to go there next. So when I kept referring to her as your wife. So what I wasn't aware of is that you were on the verge of marrying her.
Yeah.
You just got married, like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
You made it official. So that's 2 championships in the span of 1 month. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think because we've been together for so long.
Obviously, when it comes to bodybuilding, and Dave Palumbo always says this, as far as like bodybuilding being such a regimented sport as it is, and we always talk about relationships and bodybuilding, and how they can work one way, how they can not work one way, but they work in the sense where someone like yourself, you have to be so regimented, and to have someone on board. And she used to be a competitor herself.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously she knows the grind. She knows the the in the trenches aspect of it. So Talk to us about.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been together for a while. You know, what is it been like? Her name is Marlenko, right?
Yes, yeah.
Marlenko. Talk to
So
us about your relationship,
yeah, so
Marlenko,
because
and
we
again,
met,
congratulations getting married. Yeah.
thank you. Because we met in the gym, and when we met, I wasn't into bodybuilding. She was more into bodybuilding than I was. I was more into playing rugby and everything else. So she was the one that kind of sort of talked me into actually doing bodybuilding and giving a show a try, because she just sees and saw the potential in what I was able to do and what my physique was and the way I train. And she goes, "Look, have you ever thought about actually doing it?" And we sort of went into together and we started learning about bodybuilding and everything together. She kind of competed in the past and everything else and had that, and she competed when she was with me at the early stages of my career. And we sort of loved the sport and we grew into the knowledge of the sport together in that phase. And as time went on, it just kind of was, obviously my career was my potential and everything else has had a bigger reach to where we were going than hers did. So she kind of packed up her stuff and said, "Okay, look, we're just going to focus on you and try and bring you to that level." And that's what sort of happened. So we kind of grew that relationship together. And with anything, especially when you talk about bodybuilding, a sport that takes up so much of your life and is so involving, you have to have a partner that's understanding. You have to have somebody that supports you, because you can't do it alone. People don't seem to understand that. Like, it's very hard to tell someone that, "Oh, I can't do something today because I'm too tired because I'm prepping," or "I can't go out to eat with you because I got to eat my meal at this time," or "I can't do this today because I got to be here or train at this time. I can't miss a training session." I mean, a lot of people will only understand that for a short time. But when it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years and you're still keeping that same regime every single day, they won't. I don't think they're so understanding to stick around so much after that. So to have somebody that sort of truly understand that, not only because they've done it themselves, but they truly want to see you succeed and they still want to rise with that to you, is priceless. It's honestly, it's everything. And where we both started this together, we both learned it together. It wasn't I was doing it and then she came along, or she was doing it and I came along. We both learned it from the starting phases to where we are. We both learned it and we all grew into it together. So where the grind, you always start off, you just giving 50%, and then you give it 90%, and then you're all the way in where you literally live in this life full on. We went through it together. So now that we're at this phase, it's not a shock to any one of us. It's not like, okay, I got to eat my meal this time, so I got to train this time without fail every single day. And she's kind of like, well, hold on, when are we going to have time for us? There's none of that, because we've lived through this. We've done it together all right from the get-go. So he sort of created that bond of not just but now where things are good and results are happening, you get positive result, but when things went great, when you were dieting endless week after week, month after month, and you're doing shows and you weren't getting the results you wanted to, and you felt like, I wanted to quit. I didn't want to do. I was like, man, this is not working. This is a waste of time. And she kept on pushing me. No, let's do another show. Come on, keep going. Go on. Yeah. It was even days where I know that I didn't even want to go to the gym to train, because I felt like, look, there's no point in this anymore, because we're not getting results. We know, maybe you should just do what other couples do. Go out for dates and, chill out. Don't do anything. Don't bother with it. And she was like, no, we're doing this. We've made a plan. We're going to do this. So, I mean, she predicted I was going to be in this position way before I even knew I could do it. So you can imagine, she was the very first person that said, you're going to be a top world-class bodybuilder.
Wow.
Before anybody else did. And this is way before I was even a decent amateur. So to have that relationship and that bond going, that have been through fire and iron, built through years of struggle and everything else to get to where it is now, it's unique. It's something that, if anybody has that, you can truly say, yeah, you're blessed, because it's something that's truly unique. And even now, I think when Milos then came along and joined our team, he saw that right from get-go. He was like, yeah, okay, I get it now, and he saw how that bond has sort of been, and he's just added to it, and now we're in this position where it was like, what, we just seen a result of all that time and that work and putting down that strain. And trust me, it is a strain. There's no getting away with it. Bodybuilding is a strain on a relationship. Anybody who says it isn't, they're lying. It's a massive strain on a relationship, but it takes a lot for a woman to stick with a guy that does this 24/7 at this level. It really does. And she is one hell of a woman.
Oh, beautifully stated. So let me ask you this: before your Olympia prep officially begins, is there any plans for a honeymoon?
We got a lot of traveling to do. There's definitely a lot of traveling to do. The thing is, we got so much traveling to do this whole year that we're thinking, damn, even if we were going to go away, we just add one to that. But yeah, man, we definitely want to have a little bit of downtime now, and just enjoy. I mean, this last few weeks is basically probably the most downtime we're probably going to have this year. So we definitely want to enjoy that, enjoy each other's company, and so take that in, and even just process everything that's happened. Because since, like I said, since the prep for the Olympia, you had the prep straight for the Olympia. We did the Olympia when we started prepping straight for the Arnold. We haven't actually had time to sort of let it actually all sink in until now. So sort of having that moment now to sort of really have it sink in for us, because this is not just, the thing is, you got to understand, it's not just my goal. It's not just me, my dream. It's our dream, it's our goal, something that we've both dreamt and worked together for years to achieve. So we're both now sitting here and trying to actually take it all in. And every day we sort of talk and we sort of pinch each other and going, you do realize you're Arnold Classic champion, right? And it's kind of like, oh, damn, yeah, wow. So you still have that moment. Trust me, that does not get old. You still have to stop and think, holy crap, actually, did we just do that? And it's like, yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's still special like that.
No, it's crazy. It's a beautiful story, and it's truly one of the examples of just how relationships truly do bring out the best, in a bodybuilder. And obviously when you share this journey, when you share this voyage, you actually mentioned something that I was going to ask you about. Now, you're from England. Many times I speak to somebody from England or, any other soccer, football playing country, or let's say I talk to somebody from Canada, right? Like a hockey playing country. And many times, they have absolutely no interest in those other sports. I was talking to Boris Palestinsky, and I mean, he has like zero interest in soccer, even though it's a religion in Germany. But you did mention that you played rugby. So and that you further mentioned that it was your wife who essentially encouraged you to pursue this path of bodybuilding. But because oftentimes when you talk about a top level bodybuilder, many times it's, I grew up living the lifestyle. I was 14 years old, bringing my meals to school. I read the magazines. So you played rugby. Were there any other sports that you played growing up?
I played, obviously, I've gone through different sports. I've started off as a football, then I played basketball, then I went to rugby in my early 20s. And, for me, rugby was a sport that I sort of loved. I played rugby in my hometown at the time, and I was really sort of into that sport. I was sort of honed into that, and that was it for me. That was like, yeah, I'm the rugby guy. That was, I started going to the gym because of rugby, because, the coach said I was so small at the time. He was like, look, you're so skinny. You got to get bigger if you're going to take hits from bigger guys. So I started going to the gym mainly because of that, to sort of improve on that. So I met my wife at the gym during the time. And even then I was sort of playing rugby, and she sort of started training with me and everything else and sort of helping me out through that whole point. And I remember with rugby, your age limits how far you can go. And then I was already hitting 25, 26, 27. So it was like, okay, at this point, your career is only going to go so far in rugby. So even then, it was kind of like we started training again. And she was kind of hinted to me that, have you ever thought about sort of like doing bodybuilding, because you like sports, you like training, you like this? What about bodybuilding? And even then, I didn't know a damn thing about bodybuilding. I didn't have a clue. I know about Arnold and Lou Ferrigno, and that was pretty much it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. I don't really think I want to do that, something like that. And it took a while. It took a full year of her convincing me to try to sort of give it a go. And I know when we started training, body started changing a bit. When we kind of played rugby and we finished the game, we go to the changing rooms, the guys started noticing that, and they kept on saying to me, you know what, man, your physique is getting more buff, man. You ever thought about like doing bodybuilding? And I was like, why the hell you guys saying it too? What's this whole thing? And that sort of influenced me to say, okay, maybe I need to look into what the hell this bodybuilding thing is, So I spoke to her about it, and she sort of filled me in, and we started looking it up and everything else. And it was funny because right for that point, I remember I think you probably still even have the pictures, the first time I ever tried to pose. And it's something, back I'm going, what the hell were you even doing at the time? But it was that point that, and this was, and we talk about, this was end of 2013. So it was this point we kind of think, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll just give it a go. I'll give it a local show. If I like it, then great. If I don't, then it isn't for me. And you got to understand, before that period, for me, I've always been in team sports. I've always been in sports where you play as a team, you work in a team dynamics. You can play your best game. If your team loses, that's it. Your team loses, it doesn't really matter. Yep. So to then go into an individual sport like this one, where it's just you, your effort, what you put in, for me, it all rang true with me because I was like, okay, you know what? I know I work hard. Yeah, I know I can do this. I know that it's going to be all on me. Okay, great. Maybe this will be for me. But the thing is, I was always a shy dude. I could never speak in public. I could never even speak openly about anything. So being in that team dynamics always sheltered me from having my own individual say. So I could just blend into the team sort of thing. So we never knew. We knew that, okay, yeah, you could train, you can get the physique and everything else, but are you ever going to be able to stand on stage in front of hundreds and thousands of people in your underwear? This is it's the idea of it. I mean, you're talking to a guy that I would go to the beach and I wouldn't even take my top off because I didn't want anybody looking at me in any way. You know, I had abs at the time and I was like, nah, I'm good right here. We go to the pool and I'll literally wait until the pool is empty if I can get in. You know, I like the idea. I always was that introvert that just wanted to just blend in the crowd. I never wanted to just stand out at all. And now you're trying to take this person and put them in their underwear in the middle of a stage. It's the most detrimental and craziest thing you could ever think about. So it took a lot of work. It really took a lot of work mentally to sort of understand why I was like that, understand why, you know, I was just in that position where I sort of almost even self-sabotage myself not to stand out in a team. You know, in a rugby game, I could literally I could grab the ball and run half the field without battering an eye. But I always avoided shining because I didn't want to stand out. And it took a lot of mental strength and a lot of talking and a lot of discussing, a lot of therapy. You know, me and my wife to actually sort of understand why, you know, I was like that. So when it came time for me to do my first show, you can imagine I was standing there and it took them 20 minutes for them to get me on stage because the crew, they were all lined up, the athletes were all lined up, and she was like, okay, strip off, let's get you ready. And I was standing there in this gymnasium hall, and I was refusing to take my clothes off. I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. It's like, what are you talking about? You've trained, this is what we're doing for. And it took a while for them to sort of maybe do it. And I remember, like, obviously we strip off and I joined the queue and we were walking out to the audience and everything else, and the place was packed. I remember not even having a clue because I've never done anything like that. I've never stood in front of that many people just like that before. And we walked out on stage and a light just clicked. Something clicked. And I was walking up and down the stage. I was confident. It felt like this other person came out on stage and you just thrive in it. And we came back. I remember coming off stage then and she was like, what the hell was that? And I was like, I have no idea. And it was a shock for both of us. I was like, I don't know, but it felt good. I want to do it again. And, you know, now you sort of see people see me on stage and go, and I'll just say, like, this other person always comes out on stage. It just clicks with me. And I get on stage and it feels like, yeah, this is my domain. This is why I work. This is why I thrive. You know, and it's a weird thing, but it's something that I never, ever had growing up. Something I couldn't even imagine doing growing up. So it just kind of just happened. And it just seems to something that I was just good at doing.
Well, you and me finally, I guess we share one thing in common in the fact that I was, despite the fact that I usually sit behind a microphone 7 days a week, I was the shy, awkward kid in school.
Yep.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I would be that guy that literally talked to a girl in high school, mumbling, looking at the floor.
Yep, that's exactly.
And then there comes that moment where something just snaps, and all of a sudden you can't shut up. But for you, obviously that moment came, and now you caught the bug, and now you find yourself pursuing this not only professionally, but now pursuing this at a world-class level. I'm interested in knowing, it's obviously we talk about the connection of you and British bodybuilding. You know, here in this country, I'll admit, before I got into bodybuilding, I mean, Phil Heath could literally walk up to me, roundhouse kick me in the face, and I would have no idea who just roundhouse kicked me in the face. Right? The only one that I might know of is Kai Green. That's only because Kai Green was, in other shows, other movies, promotional appearances. How is it in England? I mean, obviously now that you've, achieved Arnold Classic champion status, obviously I'm sure when you walk into the gym, people know who you are. When you're in any other bodybuilding endeavor, people know who you are. But walking around, going to the mall, supermarket, do you get recognized at all? Or
Nope. It's quiet. No one knows who you are. He's just a big guy. And I kind of love that. I do love that because it's something where it's like, okay, it gives me that quietness to sort of have a day-to-day life and not have to sort of feel like, oh man, okay, you're walking around and you're always kind of getting that attention. I mean, you get it normally, you're a big bodybuilder. It's very hard
Right.
for people not to notice, over 300-pound guy walking around, but no one actually watches or pays attention in terms of general public. Not a lot of people pay attention to bodybuilding here, nowhere near like they do in the US. So you have more of that sort of like stoic quietness when you're here in the UK than anywhere else. It's when I actually go to the US that I notice, oh damn, I'm in the States. People actually know bodybuilding here. But in the UK, it's always much more quiet and much more just a sport that is more underground here, and it still remains that way. Yeah, it's becoming bigger than what it was because now with the fitness scene now blowing up, it's becoming a lot more known and recognizable. But it's still, majority of the places you go is still quite quiet.
I'm interested in knowing, when we talk about British bodybuilders, there is always a unique emphasis on their training methods, right? Obviously, when you talk about Dorian Yates, the blood and guts, and Dorian, during his career and even now, way past his career in his older ages, always been very, I guess the word is philosophical, about his training, about his training philosophies, his training methods. But then, you look at obviously, Nathan Diasha, lifts heavy. James Hollingshead lives even heavier. And, obviously Luke Sandow, rest in peace, just absolute chaos in the gym when you see his training videos. What would you describe as, I guess, your training style, and what has worked for you to go from once upon a time a rugby player to an amateur bodybuilder to now, really truly one of the top bodybuilders on the planet?
I think for me, for a long time, I followed the same dynamics of, lift extremely heavy and everything, especially being a rugby player before. It was always kind of like the same idea of how much, lifting higher amount of volume, higher amount of weight. And that was sort of the idea of training, especially when you look at the other British guys. That's basically your own dynamics. It's like, okay, this is how we train. That's it. It's only now the last 2 years that truly has changed, where it's now becoming a case of, okay, you want to train a little bit smarter. You want to save your joints. You want to save from injury. You can still make gains and progress without pushing the boundary or pushing the mark that much. And sort of speaking to guys like Milos and everything else and Fuad, they sort of taught me the dynamics of how to train differently and sparingly. So I actually not just have the ability to build muscle in terms of volume wise, but to have a longevity career, not to suffer with injury or anything like that. And, we're kind of seeing that working for me right now. And we sort of found that method has worked dramatically for me, which is something we're kind of surprised about. And it just saves a lot on that. But I know obviously a lot of British guys, they still do the heavy training and heavy dynamics and that. And it's always worked great for them. But I've more kind of migrated to the idea of, okay, just really, really intense volume.
Let's talk about, projecting ahead. Obviously the Olympia, what month is it? March, or almost into April.
November,
So, crazy to think we're only 7 months away. Your story is such where, just look at the snapshot of the last 3-4 months, right? You go into the Olympia with some buzz. There was buzz that Samson Dauda could be, but you were still at that time grouped with about 4 to 6 other bodybuilders as far as the quote-unquote wild cards, right? The ones who crashed the top 6 party. But obviously now, fast forward, you had a lot. Obviously, after your top 6 finish at the Olympia, you had a lot of hype. Maybe for the first time, the word hype was applied to you heading into the Arnold Classic. And now that you win that, the game has totally changed. The conversation, the narrative is completely changed about you. When you think about your approach, right? And it's approach, but then it's managing the weight of expectations, which really for the first time you're going to have. What's that like? And do you use that? Is that something that fuels you? Or is that something that you have to think about? How does that factor into your prep now heading into the Olympia?
But put it this way, my whole career for shows I've done before the Olympia, I've always been obviously underrated going to a show. Not much buzz, not talked about, not anything like that. And even then, I've sort of worked off that idea that we will always be the shock factor when we walk out on stage because not many people are expecting it. And for a long time, I've used that a lot. And then for the first time last year, going to the Olympia was the first time that we were thrown in there as a wild card going to the Olympia. And even that was a shock for us, man. That was definitely like, whoa, okay, this is the Olympia. It's the biggest show in the world. To be thrown in there as a wild card for that was like, oh, damn, this is insane. But what I knew it did for me, it fired me up to live up to it. it fired me up to push even harder, because for once, I'm no longer the underdog or the person that's not really put in conversation. Now you're somebody that's in it. So it really fired me up to like, okay, you know what? Now you got that steam behind you. Now I'm gonna live up to that. I ain't disappointed. So we then did the Olympia, and I was like, whoa, okay, now that's a great show. And then you go into the Arnold, and now is a bigger talk of, okay, one of potential to win the show. So I mean, at that point, even me after the Olympia, I was so buzzed out and so happy about the results. Like, I'm already going in the Arnold with the idea I'm going to win it, you know. But having that sort of be the topic of conversation, it fired me up even more. You know, the whole, you know, I know that there's a thing about pressure. They say, you know, pressure not to break pipes or make diamonds. And I know for me, the more pressure I get put on, the more I live up to I push myself to want to live up to it. So this is for me, is just now we're going into Olympia with the biggest expectation and pressure we've ever had. And I'm already hungry. I'm already feeling like, yeah, I'm excited, because I know that even, you know, Milos and Mel, they were like, oh, take a few weeks off, you know, just rest. Just, you don't need to go to the gym. You can rest off of it. We don't need to go out. And I'm already back in the gym, and I'm already beating myself up going, all right, Olympia's coming, you know. So for me, all that does, it just fires me up.
At the Arnold meet and greet before this past Arnold Classic, I asked you what result would make you happy, and you flat out jumped and said that your idea was to win, and that was your mindset from the Olympia, that you were going to win the Arnold Classic. I'll ask you the same question as we talk 7 months from the Olympia. You look at the likes of Hadi Choopan, of Derek Lunsford, of Nick Walker. You know, obviously those are going to be, you know, obviously now you had to factor in Andrew Jack. Big Ramy hasn't gone anywhere. But now you going into that show as the Arnold Classic champion, now 7 months in advance, what result will make you happy for the 2023 Olympia?
There's only one result left to get, and that's the result I'm going for, man. That top spot ain't nothing but that, man. Because honestly, with every step up we get, with every expectation we climb above, the higher up, the more I expect. So for me, this is like, okay, we just won the Arnold. There ain't nothing else. We got to go for the Olympia. We're going for that win, man. We want that Sandow. So for me, this is my own expectation. We're winning the Olympia this year.
Obviously, you and Milos are going to put in the plan, all the adjustments, all the fine points that you're going to look to tune up to prep for the 2023 Olympia. But answer this question. When you consider the landscape, when you consider the progression you've made, Samson Dauda will win the 2023 Olympia because
we all know that if you look back at my history, we all know that I improved drastically in a short space of time. So whatever physique you just saw the Arnold, you can best believe that it will be 10, 20% better by the Olympia. It always happens. It's always happened. I don't even need to say. You just have to look back on the last 2 years and see that. So best believe in the next 7 months, you're going to be looking at a whole totally transformed physique once again and stepping on stage.
Samson, this has truly been one of the cool stories of bodybuilding over the course of the last couple of years, seeing you rise, seeing your progression, and seeing you really cap it off with winning the 2023 Arnold Classic champion, and obviously a lot of chapters to be left to be written in this bodybuilding story. Samson, I know took a lot of your time. I'm very appreciative of you giving me some time here today. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I know when we spoke the day after, we had the situation where my cameraman, his camera was tied up with the Arnold Schwarzenegger seminar. So we literally recorded it off a camera phone, no microphone. And of course, we're at the comment section. It's like, where's the audio? I can't hear a word he's saying. So I knew we had to get you back on, and I wanted to give you the full opportunity to really express, you know, your thoughts after winning, and really how it's changed you, your mindset as a bodybuilder, and now, you know, how it changes things projecting forward for the ultimate prize for the 2023 Olympia. But again, thank you so much for the time, Samson. Congratulations again on the Arnold Classic champion, B, getting married, and obviously all that, you know, you have coming up for you. And I'm very appreciative of you joining us here today.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks so much. I always appreciate you guys having me on there. And yeah, man, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.